I'd like to call to order the Milan Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you to everyone attending this evening, as well as those who will be watching the recording. Just a few housekeeping things. All board members are present except Ms. Heike is excused, Mr. Farrow is excused, and then student board member Maya is excused. Avery may be showing up. So with that, we will go to board recognitions. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Sislo. I just want to take a minute because the month of January is School Board Recognition Month, and I want to read a proclamation from Governor Whitmer. January 2024 has been recognized as School Board Recognition Month. Whereas Michigan is a home to nearly 600 locally elected local school board members that work to enrich the lives of Michigan students through education and directly influencing instruction in Michigan public schools, and whereas local school board members are exceptional public servants who have dedicated and committed themselves to this duty by governing school districts, listening to parent voices, and advancing student achievement and well-being in the schools and communities they serve, and whereas during this month we join with the Michigan Association of School Boards, Michigan Department of Education, local school districts, and community organizations to recognize and raise awareness of the countless efforts and contributions of local school boards and school board members throughout Michigan. Now, therefore, I, Gretchen Whitmer, Governor of Michigan, do hereby proclaim January 2024 as School Board Recognition Month in Michigan. Again, that is a certificate of proclamation signed by Gretchen Whitmer. I just want to second those thanks. I am so blessed to have such an amazing school board to work for here in Milan, a board that truly puts kids first in every decision they make. I know that the community might see them at the 2 meetings a month for a couple of hours. That's just the beginning of the work that they do. They are regularly talking with community members. They are attending conferences. They are going to trainings. They are communicating with me. There are a lot more hours put into this job than just the hours that our community sees them on camera. And I want to personally thank all 7 of our board members for their service during this month of school board recognition. I will be passing out certificates to each of them from MASB, which is the Michigan Association of School Boards, who also wants to thank all of our school board members for the work that they do for their local districts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From us, it wouldn't be even possible without the staff that we have here at Milan Area Schools. So right back at you, as well as the community that entrusts us with those decisions for their children. It means a lot, and we do take the job seriously. So thank you. All right, next up is board organization. This is our organization meeting where we elect officers. So at this time, I will accept nominations for president. Nominations do not need to be seconded. So do I have any nominations for president?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes.
I'd like to recognize Andrew Sislo, or nominate Andrew Sislo for president.
All right. Do I have any other nominations for president? All right, now I need a motion to elect Andrew Sislo for the president of the Milan Area School Board of Education for a 1-year term.
I motion to elect Andrew Sislo to the Board of Education for a 1-year term as president.
Do I have a second?
Second by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to elect Andrew Sislo for the president of the Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a 1-year term. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Murray is acting secretary this evening, so she will call the roll call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, let me get my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
All right. Murray, no, I'm sorry, Heike absent. Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow's absent. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Right, now, I'll accept nominations for vice president. I would like to nominate Ms. Betty Rosenleacher for the office of vice president. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, hearing none, I need a motion to elect Betty Rosenleacher for vice president of Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term.
Moved by Gutierrez.
Second by Murray.
So moved and supported to elect Betty Rosenleacher for vice president of Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term. Is there any discussion? Ms. Murray?
All right. Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow absent. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Next up, I will accept nominations for secretary.
Mr. Sislo,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Michelle Heike as secretary.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? All right, it's been moved and supported to elect Michelle Heike for the secretary of the Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term. I'm sorry, she's been nominated. I need a motion to elect Michelle Heike for the secretary of Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term.
Moved by Gutierrez.
Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to elect Michelle Heike for the secretary of the Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Murray?
Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Next up, I will accept nominations for treasurer.
Mr. Sislo,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Tom Farrow for the office of treasurer.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? All right, I need a motion to elect Tom Farrow for the treasurer of the Milan Area School Board of Education for a one-year term.
Moved by Murray.
Support by Gutierrez.
So moved and supported to elect Tom Farrow for treasurer of the Milan Area Schools Board of Education for a one-year term. Is there any discussion? Ms. Murray?
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Excellent. Next up are the appointments of our representatives for the Washtenaw School Board, Washtenaw Association of School Board, and the Legislative Relations Network representative. These are folks that will represent Milan area schools on the boards that include all the WISD, Washtenaw Area School Board, Association of School Board. They meet about quarterly. They plan educational activities for board members, as well as review the WISD budget. And I would like to nominate Ms. Carrie Gutierrez for that position. And she accepts. And then our Legislative Relations Network representative, this person works with the other representatives to set up meetings with our local representatives, senators, even our national representatives. We have quarterly meetings with those folks where they hear concerns and want to know what is going on in our districts and how they can help us with advocacy for as our representatives in the government. So with that, I would like to nominate Ms. Cassie Pryor for that position. And she accepts. So I need a motion to approve the appointments as listed below. Washtenaw School Board Association representative is Carrie Gutierrez, and Legislative Relations Network representative is Cassie Pryor. I need a motion to approve those appointments.
Motion by Rosenleacher.
Support by Murray.
So moved and supported to approve those appointments. Is there any discussion? All right. Ms. Murray?
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
and motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you folks stepping up for those roles. We'll definitely get the information out for those moving forward. So, next up on the agenda is communications and community engagement. This is the time for public comments. It's just a reminder that this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you will be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Board members may question speakers but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation, or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board? All right. Next up on the agenda for routine matters for approval, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 13th, 2023.
Motion by Pryor.
Support by Gutierrez.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 13th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 13th, 2023. Ms. Murray?
Farah, absent. Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Next up, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of December 13th, 2023.
Motion by Rosenleacher.
Support by Gutierrez.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of December 13th, 2023. Again, those minutes are found in the envelopes at your seat. Any concerns? All right, I will collect those. It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of December 13th, 2023. Ms. Murray?
Thank you. Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
All right, next up, I need a motion to approve the bills and reimbursement of expenses.
Moved by Murray,
Support by Pryor.
It's been moved and supported to approve the bills and reimbursement of expenses. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, it's been moved and supported to approve the bills and reimbursement of expenses. Ms. Murray?
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
okay, motion carries 5-0.
All right. Next up on the agenda in the area of personnel and leadership, we have some teacher appointments. I need a motion to approve Vicki Murray as a Simons Elementary School classroom teacher and Simona Kukuyet as a Milan Middle School teacher consultant effective immediately.
Moved by Gutierrez.
Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to approve Vicki Murray as Simons Elementary School classroom teacher and Simona Kukuyet a Milan Middle School teacher consultant effective immediately. Mr. Gearbaugh?
Yes, thank you. I just want to take a minute to provide some information about each of these candidates. We are very lucky, and I feel very honored to bring both of these recommendations to you. Vicki Mori is taking over as a full-time teacher in a classroom that she's been a long-term sub in since the beginning of the year. The teacher decided not to come back after her maternity leave. And we are blessed that Mrs. Mori decided to come out of retirement and become a full-time teacher again. And so it's going to work very well in that classroom because she's already been working with those students since day one. And so there won't be any time for new relationships to have to be developed or anything. So it was very nice that she made that decision, and we are excited to bring her on board. she was a building sub prior to becoming the long-term sub, so we had a very lengthy interview time with her, and she's just doing a great job in that classroom. The other person that we are hiring, Simona Kukuyet, as a Milan Middle School teacher consultant. To me, it's an honor to be able to bring her to you. Many may not know that she was actually a teacher in Romania. And then when her and her husband moved to Michigan, obviously the state doesn't recognize any of her teaching or any of her college work in Romania. So she became a parapro and was a parapro at Paddock Elementary School for years. When we opened up the parapro to teacher program, she was one of the first ones to call me and say, absolutely, I want to do this. And I said, I was actually thinking of you as the superintendents were working on building this program, because I knew her dream was to get back into the classroom as a teacher. So she is one of the first graduating classes of the Parapro to Teacher program, and we are so excited to be able to bring her back as a teacher. Again, we've had a long interview with her. She's an amazing person, was a wonderful Parapro at Paddock, and we are just so excited to be able to offer her a full-time position as a teacher consultant. She will be starting at the middle school for a couple of weeks, and then she's going and be an extra TC there. She's then going to cover a maternity leave at Simons, so that we have a full certified teacher in that position. And then the remainder of the year after the maternity leave teacher returns, she is going to work with the current 3rd and 4th graders, because she will be the 5th grade teacher consultant next year. That's the position we're adding because of the shift in that grade level to the middle school. So what's nice is she's going to be in the building with the kids and be working with those kids that then she moves up with and works with at the middle school next year. So both of those positions work out great. We've got 2 phenomenal candidates. I'm excited to be able to bring them both to you for different reasons. And I appreciate your support of these hires.
Any questions or concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Ms. Rosenleacher.
Not really a question or concern. I want to mention how excited I am that we're able to honor parapros who work so hard for us, that have taken this extra step. And to see, I believe it was 19 in the county. I happen to have worked with a para-ed who is now a teacher in another district. It's exciting that as a county we're able to support our people like that. So congratulations to both of our new hires. Happy to have them on board.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Murray.
She took what I was going to say. No, but yeah, I was going to echo the same thing. It is really, really exciting to start seeing these grow your own programs start to come to fruition in our district as well as the county at large. And so I just want to also extend my congratulations and thanks to both of these candidates for all of the time and dedication that they have already poured into our district. And I'm just so excited and honored that they wish to continue to be a part of our district. And so congrats to them on all of their hard work and efforts. And we're so excited. I'm so excited to bring them on board. So thanks.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I too want to echo this sentiment in 2 different ways. With Vicki Murray, I'm just so grateful that we have experienced educators who are willing to come back into the classroom and who choose to do so here in this district and in Milan. They could work at any district in the state of Michigan right now. And the fact that she has been with this classroom and is willing to stay, I think, is a testament to our district, but also to the wonderful people here. And so I'm really grateful and thank her very much. And then with Simona, I've known Simona for a long time. She's been the parapro in both of my kiddos' rooms over the years. My husband has worked with her as a para, and I'm so proud of her. I expressed this several weeks ago when we talked about her graduation. And again, she could go into a classroom in any school in this county, this state, and the fact that she's coming back here to Milan, we've been so lucky to benefit from that all of these years as a para. Now to have her back, I'm overjoyed about it, and I'm really, really grateful that we are continuing both at the district level as well as at the ISD level and at the state level to provide training and ongoing career development to make the best use and encourage advancement of our staff at all levels. And I think this is a really fantastic example. And so I'm really excited to support both of these nominations. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other comments? All right. It has been moved and supported to approve Vicky Murray as a Simons Elementary School classroom teacher and Simona Kukuyet as a Milan Middle School teacher consultant effective immediately. Ms. Murray?
Murray, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next up, we need a motion to approve Kristen Schwartz as the Simons Elementary School principal effective immediately.
Motion by Gutierrez.
Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to approve Kristen Schwartz as the Simons Elementary School principal effective immediately. Mr. Gearba?
Yes, again, I am excited for a lot of reasons to bring you a phenomenal candidate to be our next principal of Simons Elementary School. One thing is I'm wearing myself out being the acting principal and superintendent at the same time, so it will be nice to have someone coming on board. But truly, we ran a very thorough process. It involved numerous teachers at the building, administrators from other buildings, one of the secretaries from the building. We really take hiring a principal very seriously, and the board has seen the long process. It really involved 4 interviews and 2 writing assignments in order to become the next principal. We are blessed to have someone who has 25 years of experience, numerous years as an elementary teacher, several years as an instructional coach, and then has been working more recently as an assistant principal in an elementary school in a larger district. All 25 years of that service was with one district, and so I believe that we have a good chance with her for longevity, as well as just her experience level is phenomenal. I can tell you that she was the top selected candidate by the staff at Simons Elementary School, and that sentiment carried through the other interview phases of the process. She is very excited to come on board. I will say to the community, if she is approved tonight, we do honor other districts, and she will officially tomorrow morning give her 2 weeks' notice to her current employer. So we aren't quite to the point where she'll be here, but we deserve that respect to other employers, just as we expect that respect with us when someone hires one of our staff members. So she may work to take a day here and there over the next 2 weeks and come in and get to know the staff, but that's kind of at her will. If I did my math correctly, I think she'll actually be here and start full-time on February 1st. So we are excited to bring her to you for recommendation, and again, I appreciate your support.
Just a couple other things that are reviewing. She's pursuing a doctorate, I understand,
Yes, correct.
in trauma-informed education.
Yep.
And then you also did hold a community forum for feedback.
Yes, we did hold a community forum, received feedback. We also did a lengthy protocol with the Simon staff on a PD day and got their input. And that actually we took to even a higher level this time from the staff. Not only did they help us look at what attributes they wanted in their next principal, they also developed several of the questions that we used in the interview process. So really, and this is what's nice about being in a smaller district, is that we can get staff that involved in the hiring process, and even get our community involved in telling us the attributes that they would like to see in the next principal. I am very confident that this candidate checks all of those boxes of the attributes that from both the community and the teachers wanted to see. I feel very blessed at this time of a school year to get such an experienced person. And honestly, we had numerous great applicants. It was not an easy decision. And we're just lucky to bring in such an experienced educator, and one that the staff that are at Simons and were part of the process have already, the morale has already started to boost just from them knowing this is the candidate we're bringing to you for approval.
And then you did post it in the normal places, and especially for underrepresented and minorities.
Yep, it was posted in all of those places. All of the Michigan associations, we posted it on a site that is specific for underrepresented groups in administration, which is a national website, and accepted applicants. We also, for the first time, posted it on Indeed. And actually, we had about 11 applicants that first saw it on Indeed, and we were able to then send a message to say, now go to our website and fill out the full application. And several of those were ones that made it into the interview process. So again, we're putting things everywhere to attract great candidates.
Any other questions or comments? All right, it's been moved and supported to approve Kristen Schwartz as the Simons Elementary School principal effective immediately. Ms. Murray?
Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Murray, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Next up in the area of our learning environment and culture, we have a WISD Parent Advisory Committee update from Andrea Bennick.
Thank you, Mr. Sislo. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for a chance to update all of you on the happenings in the PAC. I hope all of you and staff and families had a restful break, and lucky all of us, a third day in a row. This happened 10 years ago when my youngest son was born, and he was like 2 months old, and then my older boys were like 5 and 7, and I was like, great, we're home again for another 2 weeks. Yay. Anyway, I appreciate, the necessity of doing so and the decisions that are not easy to make to call school off and all of the factors that weigh into that. I wanted to echo you, Mrs. Rosenleacher and Ms. Murray and Ms. Gutierrez, about the excitement of having a para to teacher come in on board as a TC, especially because I know that she will be working with my son's grade level, so that's really exciting. And I'm really excited to announce that 17 out of the 19 candidates that went through the para to teacher program have already been hired. So that's a huge success rate, and that's really exciting. And additionally, I think that it's really important to note that these people who are becoming special education teachers have a really great feel for how to support and work with and encourage the paras that will now be working with them in their own classrooms. So there's a really great benefit to having them have had work as support staff and now be able to come in and be able to really effectively collaborate with the paras that are going to be working in their classrooms as well. So it's exciting all the way around, I think. PAC met last night, and we had the opportunity to collaborate with Michigan Alliance for Families and bring an in-person presentation on the topic of transitions in the process in the school system. So for those of you that don't know, that process begins typically in Washtenaw County when students turn 14. They begin the pre-transition IEP process of looking at long-term goals and what kinds of supports are going to be needed to help students achieve those long-term goals, especially as they graduate out of high school and either enter into a young adult program or go on to further training or enter the workforce. So it's a long process. It's a years-long process for to ensure like a smooth transition from your school supports to your community-based supports. So Karen Wong was the transition specialist from Michigan Alliance for Families, and she did a great job of walking us through the process of what the differences are between school IEPs versus transition IEPs, what it looks like to have a student involved in the collaborative process of developing those IEPs, because that is an important and necessary component, is having student input so that the goals are student-led and not parent-led or teacher-led or anybody else's expectations other than what the student envisions for themselves. And that's a really important part of helping our students grow to be as independent as possible. I would say overall that the presentation from Karen was really informative. The PAC absolutely thanks her and the Michigan Alliance for Families for their collaborative effort in bringing this in-person opportunity to us. If anyone is looking for more information on the transitions process or anything really within special education, Michigan Alliance for Families is a great resource. They have a wealth of information on their website, and I know I've mentioned it before, but they have webinars, they have a search tool where you can look up things by topic and either read various articles, get links to the Department of Education for the very specific rules surrounding special education. They have trainings throughout the whole year that are on a variety of topics. But Michigan Alliance for Families also has regional parent mentors. So that is somebody that if you have a need for some more support or for more information, you can contact Michigan Alliance for Families and they will put you in touch with a regional parent mentor. And that person can be a really great support for any kind of information or help that you might need. In addition to this presentation, there have been several other events on learning opportunities in the WISD that I've either attended or plan to attend in the upcoming month. On January 10th, the transitions team had a meeting. We heard from MCTI, which is the Michigan Career and Technical Institute, and that's a career and vocational training campus that's located in Plainwell. The MCTI is really unique in that it's an on-campus living experience for students with disabilities, and they have 12 different training programs where you can receive different certificates. They have things like retail operator, safe food service, custodial work. I think they have cyber security, something along those lines. They have a huge amount, woodworking. And so what happens is students get referred from the Michigan Rehabilitative Services or the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. I think that's listen, there's so many things. But those services refer a student to the MCTI, and then once that happens, students have the opportunity to do a trial where they can stay on campus for 5 days and explore the different learning opportunities that are there. And then if they make the decision to enroll in that program, if you are referred from MRS or BSBP, then your tuition is covered, your room and board is covered, your books, your uniforms, anything that's related to your training while you're there on campus is covered. Incidentals like extracurriculars, if you choose to go off campus to go, out to eat or go bowling or do your laundry, that sort of thing, those things do incur a cost for families, but otherwise your meal plans are covered. It's really like a residential college experience. The campus is open, however, it's incredibly remote. So it's on a lake and they have, a lot of things on campus to do, but there's no Uber, there's no transit service, there's no, you're not calling a cab. Like basically if you don't have a buddy who's driving or your folks aren't coming to get you or you can't drive yourself, that's where you're at. So it's a unique experience in that way, but they do have a lot of different things on campus that are available for students who have special needs and I think it's important to note though that you have to have a relatively comprehensive ability to live independently. You don't have somebody living with you who is able to assist you if with medications or managing your schedule. Those are things that your student has to be able to do pretty much on their own. They do have like once a week dorm room checks, to make sure that you're like every other college kid, not living in filth. Like your dirty clothes aren't just piling up or your candy wrappers aren't all under your bed or that sort of a thing. But otherwise it's pretty routine college living where you are on your own and managing your own life and your own schedule. But I think it's a really awesome opportunity to mention for anybody who might be interested and not necessarily know that that's an option out there. We heard from PEAK, which is Programs to Educate All Cyclists. And this is an advocacy group that seeks to educate persons with disabilities and the abilities to walk, ride a bike, or utilize transit services within their communities. So they have a variety of different programs. They have a school active transportation program, a summer cycling program, an explorers program, and a mechanics program. Now, all of those programs are available in Wayne County. Washtenaw County, they're branching out into. I know that Saline and Ann Arbor utilize the 7-week cycling program. So that's a summer program where I think 2 or 3 days a week you bring your students to campus in Saline or in Ann Arbor, and they work with staff from Peak who help them figure out how to safely ride a bike. So whatever level your student is at, whether they have no cycling experience at all, whether they have no balance at all the way up to, yes, they can cycle, but they need some help with learning the rules of the road. So a wide range of abilities are supported through Peak, and it's a really great program. I want to say that's, I think last night somebody was telling me at our meeting that their student went through it, and I think it was 5 years they participated in that 7-week summer program, and it took them 5 years, but they worked with him every summer, and he was able to independently then ride a bike and know the rules of the road and be safe while doing so. So it's a testament to their commitment to helping people with disabilities become as independent as possible. I would encourage Milan area schools to consider bringing Peak into our district. Caitlin Britton is the school active transportation coordinator. She's currently holding a course in Ypsilanti schools, and she's helping them utilize transit services. So she's working with students there to be able to access how do you get your bus pass? How do you go from your home to where the bus stop is? How do you read your transit maps? How do you know where you're supposed to get off? And all of the different components that go into riding public transportation. She's helping them figure out and learn so that they can become independent in their community. And so I would really encourage Milan to seek out how we can maybe have Peak come into our community, whether that's a long-term basis, a one-time deal. I know that we have in our community the Milan Bike Guy, who's super passionate about biking. Vern White is always looking to support families and students get on their bikes, and man, it'd be wonderful if our community could have Vern and Peak connect in some way so that we can really support our students to become safe cyclists in town and wherever they may end up being. On January 18th, I'll join the WISD admins to learn about the preparation for the possible special education millage renewal. It's slated to be on the ballot in the November 2024 ballot. So I'm really looking forward to learning about how PAC can support our districts. I know that there's parameters surrounding funding and campaign finance and how we can support our districts. So I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about that process and helping that special education millage renewal become on everybody's radar who ends up voting. Another upcoming opportunity for families who have high school age or young adult program students is the WISD Transitions Seminar. So last night we heard from the transitions specialist, which talked about the process of IEPs and documentation. The Transitions Seminar actually has community supporters and partners present so that you can get connected with community mental health, where you can get connected with Washtenaw Association for Community Advocacy, the Center for Independent Living, all of these things that are out in the community that are meant to support our young adults and adults with disabilities. They are present at this transition seminar. So it's a great way to get connected, to learn more about what is available for your students as they age out of the school system. I wanted to mention Sherry Van Adder told me last night about a professional development opportunity. So this does qualify for one, SCE. Yeah, that one. Whatever your acronym is for all of that. It is a webinar that is put on by the Council for Exceptional Children, and it's celebrating our partnerships. So it focuses on homeschooling and how school systems can support homeschoolers. And I think that that's something to note, because I know that in Milan we have several students who homeschool or maybe attend WAVE or have some alternative education opportunities, but still are in need of special education support services. And so that might be an interesting webinar. If you're a member of the Council for Exceptional Children, it's a free webinar. If you're not, it's $30. So if anybody's interested in getting those PD credits for whatever you might need them for, that's an opportunity, and it's relatively short. It's from 4:30 to 5:30 tomorrow evening. And so if you are looking to register for that, you can connect with me and I can get you the registration information. Our next PAC meeting is going to be February 20th from 6:30 to 8. It's at the TLC Center on Wagner Road. And this meeting is going to be a workshop session where we are looking to gather our resources and information for community partners for summer care and summer activities and summer camps. It's always a big request for a lot of people who have kids with special needs. It seems like people are floundering looking for something that their kid is able to attend with the proper supports. And so we're hoping to weed through all of the past camps and programs that have been available to see what's still up and running. I don't think that list and that information's really been updated since COVID, and so there's obviously been a lot of change and turnover since that's happened. So we're hoping to have a work session to create a master list and be able to send it out to our districts so that our families can have some supports for the summer. If anybody knows of any programs, if anybody has information about programs that are really supportive of students with special needs, whether it's staffing, medical, respite care, any of those things, please reach out to me. Email me, Andrea Benink, packrep@gmail.com. I am open to all suggestions. We are desperate to find places for our kids to be welcomed and to thrive. And I wanted to end my update tonight with an interesting takeaway that I had from one of the presenters from Peak. This presenter discussed the necessity of a concept called cognitive accessibility. He made a really compelling point about how society often focuses on physical accessibility with things like ramps, Braille, ASL, but we oftentimes miss the point of cognitive accessibility, which I summarize as taking complex ideas and breaking them down into understandable components for every level of understanding. I think it's notable because cognitive accessibility is something that can be missed in parent-district relationships and various levels of communication, especially in the special education process. I see a lot of examples of parents that are intimidated when they come into an IEP meeting, or they are have concerns but they don't really know how to address them because there's vernacular and acronyms and things that they maybe don't necessarily understand. I think it can be exacerbated, and not necessarily intentionally, but sometimes we just are so comfortable in our own workplace and our own community that we use lingo that can be off-putting sometimes. So I think part of our role as PAC representatives is to make our special education processes accessible for our families and to encourage our district staff to remember that necessity when they're working with parents and throughout all of their communications with their families. And it's not to say that parents and families have an inability to understand complex ideas, and it's not to say that our professionals are, intentionally being vague or obtuse when they're communicating. It's just to remember that we need to break down the things that we understand innately, so that it's really easy to understand for families who might not have a full understanding of that. I just think that it's really important to take our complex ideas and break them down so that our families can understand that. And I bring this up as a reminder that cognitive accessibility is important for all, whether they have a disability or not. And it's my hope that we all continue to work together to better improve the special education process, to improve our resources and our knowledge for all of our parties that are involved. So, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And if anybody has any questions? Yes, Mrs. Rosenleacher.
Do you have a date for the transition seminar? Either I
Oh, yes,
missed
I'm
it or-
sorry. I mentioned it, but I didn't say the date. It is January 23rd from 9 to 12, and
Okay.
that's at the WISD TLC building. They also have a Zoom option, and I can get you that link if you are interested, if anybody's interested in attending that seminar via Zoom. And then they have another one in May as well. That's an evening. It's from 5 to 8 in the evening. I can't remember the exact date.
Well, you'll be back again
I'll
before
be back
May.
again. But they're trying to hit all of the different timeframes so
Great.
that as many families as possible can access that opportunity to meet with those resources.
Super. Thank you so much. I find your updates so valuable for us and
Thank you.
helps keep us on the cutting edge of everything that's going on. And I echo everything you said about peak. I was the blessed principal to have peak in my parking lot in the summertime.
Yeah,
So
it's really
it's-
something.
yeah.
And bless those rec students who are like out there running alongside these kids who
Phenomenal.
are trying to cycle. It
And
is-
teaching them finding the right bike.
Yes.
I mean, it's
yeah,
beyond
that's a
just,
huge
not just your
component, too.
traditional two-wheeler. It might be a
It might be a
low
balance
three-wheeler.
bike.
So,
Yeah, it might be a balance
Yeah.
bike. It might be a three-wheeler. It might be using, like, if you are, differently limbed, if you are quadriplegic or paraplegic, using different instruments to be able to pedal and steer. It's really interesting to find the adaptive equipment that they have. So it is really cool. Thank you, Mrs. Rosenleacher. Yeah. One other thing that I was thinking of, and I noticed that on last month's the minutes, that there was an AI update. And I was talking to a student who is currently in special education training, and they're working on using AI in terms of modifying and adapting curriculum. And then there's also talk about teachers using AI to help write IEP goals. And so I'm wondering if the district is setting parameters around what that looks like for our teachers and our TCs, so that we're making sure that goals are being set that are realistic and reasonable, and that we're making sure that they're fully accessible and not ableist. There's been concern in the special education community that some of the goals or some of the AI productions are missing the mark in terms of what it's really like to have somebody with special needs. So I'm just throwing that out there because I think it's an important and upcoming thing that incoming teachers are learning about, and so we need to be proactive about that. And I see that there's a lot going on in the community about AI, so that's all for real this time. All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. And it is amazing how you can keep all those acronyms straight. So, next up is the strategic plan scorecard update given by Mr. Gearbaugh.
So as our normal procedure, after I either have my evaluation or a quarterly check-in with the Board of Education, we update the strategic plan scorecard. So we're going to kind of do two things, I believe, as we go through this tonight. One, I will talk about the information under each of the 5 goals that is in the scorecard, and the scorecard will be posted on the website in the next couple of days following tonight's meeting. And then the second thing is, I know that the board wants to look at the objectives under each goal and possibly look at some of those that they want to see special focus put on. Obviously, we're working towards all of these objectives, but there might be a few of them that they want to have extra focus put on. So, under academics and programs, the goal is to expand relevant and individual learning opportunities for all students. And there are 3 objectives: to expand the use of educational development plans for students, to increase social emotional learning in 21st century programming, and to continue the implementation of a K-12 social emotional learning and 21st century learning continuum. Under this section, the board has asked for a lot of student data to be recorded. This includes our NWEA scores broken down by building and subject, our M-STEP scores broken down by building and subject, and our SAT scores broken down by building and subject. And again, you'll be able to see all of those with past years provided as well. And everyone will see that we made some significant growth this year, and that in most areas our numbers are rebounding ahead of where they were pre-COVID. The other data that the board has asked be included is the participation in our extracurricular activities. And so you will see a list of all the extracurricular activities and how many students were involved in each of those activities over the last 3 years. And then you will also see the promotion and retention rates for each of our buildings and each of those grade levels at the elementary school. So with that, I will stop, and the board can have a conversation about the objectives under Goal 1.
Yeah, I just want to highlight the increases in the percentages that we looked at. Looking at M-STEP in math, there was a 7% increase since before COVID. So we've recovered since COVID and even increased since beyond that. So that was 7% for M-STEP in math, and M-STEP ELA, we've increased 4% since before COVID. NWE math, there was a 2% increase, and then NWE ELA, there's been an 8% increase. And then we also still outpace our the state average, and then as well as there's a cohort of peers that we look at within other schools in the state of Michigan that are similar to us. We outpace those our peers in our SAT scores as well. So obviously there's always continuous improvement in these scores that we've talked about. But the fact that we've made these significant gains and even have outpaced where we were at before COVID shows that we have recovered and that we can continue to grow those scores as we go. So that's just one thing that I wanted to bring some light to.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes.
I'd like to echo that. I think it's really important, and I look more closely at the NWEA because it's tracking same cohorts of students over time, year after year after year. And when you look at our pre-COVID data to where we're at today, and we still are hearing the behind. You know, our students are behind. Our students are looking at our data. We're exceeding where we were before COVID. So I think that's a really important message that we all need to reflect on, that our staff and our administrators have worked really hard to close those gaps in that learning loss that we had during COVID. Is there room to continue to grow and be better? Of course there is. But there's a lot of hard work that's gone into seeing this kind of significant increase in that NWEA data. Because again, that's measuring multiple times a year, same groups of kids. So looking at that across the years, congratulations to all of the staff involved. They're working hard.
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Ms. Bure.
Yeah, you might want to jump in and explain this a little bit better than I can too, but I think that it might be helpful if we shared a little bit more about those MASB peer schools that we are comparing ourselves against as
Sure.
well. That was really enlightening information for me when we did the superintendent evaluation, to know who those peer schools were and why they were selected, and just for the community to know that they represent not just schools that are extremely similar to Milan in terms of size and student populations, et cetera, but the board also has selected schools that are kind of a reach for us, like almost in a way of like comparing us to Ann Arbor, for example, where we're mixing in schools that are ahead of us in a number of ways, and those are included in that MASB peer group. And so for us to see data showing that, you know, we're not only exceeding state averages, but we're also, you know, performing or outperforming with those MASB peer schools as well, I think is also very exciting. So forgive me if I didn't quite capture that eloquently, so feel free to add on to that. But
No, you
I just
did.
wanted to explain that to the community and what we mean by that
Yeah,
MASB peer group of schools.
Sure. I'll start with a little bit, and Mr. Gearba can fill in. But that was intentional back to the strategic planning, when we had MASB come in and we went through the strategic planning initiative. One of the things that they did with data is they found school districts that were similar to us, like Ms. Murray stated, as far as, rural versus city, busing, number of students, many different factors, socioeconomic similarities, as well, and then a few stretch districts, as she indicated as well. And I think there's 7 to 8 districts as part of that we can pull that data down and compare to. And I'll let Mr. Gearba speak any more to that.
Yeah, you've covered most of it. Just so everyone knows, those districts were selected at the time that the strategic plan was built. And when we do the next strategic plan process with the community, those districts may change, but you maintain those districts throughout the 5-year cycle, because it doesn't do any good to keep changing who you're comparing to, because you won't see a true comparison. So those districts were selected not by us, but more so by MASB, as they went out and found districts that were similar to us and stretch districts for us. And so it's nice to see kind of our growth compared to those as we look at our SAT scores.
Any other comments on academics programs? All right, we'll go on to the next, learning environment.
The next goal was learning environment and culture. And the goal was to improve and foster a safe learning environment that supports the academic, social, emotional, physical, creative, and cultural needs of the individual. The objectives were to support professional development opportunities in the areas of mental health, trauma, diversity, and responsive teaching. The second objective was to review district programming and structures. And the third objective was to monitor support staff numbers and hours. The data that's collected under these is our attendance data, which is recorded in several ways, as well as our discipline data, which is recorded in several different ways, and our ongoing learning environment and cultural initiatives in each of the buildings. And again, all of this will be posted on the website. I'm not going to go through all of those numbers, but all of that data is recorded for the board and the community to see on the scorecard.
And obviously, the biggest initiative in regards to this is Reimagine Milan Area Schools. I think we're all aware of what's happening in regards to those transitions. But we do want that communication to continue, and we know there's a lot of work that's being done and meetings to make that successful, as well as some of these hires that the district is making in regards to meet those needs. At our last Big Red Chat with the board, we had several recommendations in regards to Reimagine Milan as well that we need to consider in regards to support staff and such. So that's why it's an important objective. And we would expect Mr. Gearba to continue to have community meetings as we get closer to the next school year, and as more of these things become more concrete in preparation for next year. Other comments in regards to learning environment and culture?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Murray.
I think I just want to throw it back out there. It's something that Mr. Farrow has raised at board meetings recently, but just in terms of goal 2, objective 1, supporting professional development opportunities. I just look forward to the board's work in figuring out how to codify some of that DEI work, and I think that the staff group that was leading the DEI work has sort of kicked it to us, and so I look forward to doing some of that work, and I feel that kind of falls under this goal as well as a couple of others. So
Sure.
I'm just gonna toss that out there. Thank you.
Mr. Sislo, I
Yeah.
think that goes to the point, too, of us continuing to move forward with reviewing the transition of our policies, because that's going to be a key component to be able to continuing the work on that objective.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Sisler?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
In light of those two comments, which I wholeheartedly agree with, I think it would be helpful, we know we've heard from Mr. Gearbaugh about some changes in how the topics for professional development have been organized over the last couple years, a lot of feedback from stakeholders as well as teachers and other staff members. It might be nice to add those as to the scorecard as a place to document on a year-to-year which topics are covered, not just that we are generally covering these topics, but specifically both so we can make sure that we are staying abreast of current professional development issues. Trustee Mrs. Bennett brought up some of them tonight. But this would be a place to communicate and be transparent with the community about those emerging professional development issues.
Good point. Any others? All right, then we will move on to community engagement.
So under community engagement, the goal is to develop and implement a comprehensive plan to foster student, family, staff, and community engagement and partnerships. The objectives are to engage the District Communication Committee in reviewing the Communication Perception Survey responses, to review and analyze the recommendations from the District Communications Committee, and to investigate district branding and to develop a marketing plan. The only data that is collected underneath this goal is the current methods in which each of our buildings communicate with their stakeholders, and those are listed for each building.
So just some highlights here is there's obviously been a lot of great work with the communications committee as we transferred that from a board committee to a district committee. Mr. Gearbaugh meets with them monthly. They've been working on a communications plan that will soon be revealed. And then a website update as well. It's one of the things from the vendor. They've kind of put us on the back burner as they've gone through some other changes with other people that use their software. But that's one of the things that we're looking at moving forward. And then obviously, yeah, we want to continue to use the survey, the end of the year survey. That's been, we've had 2 years of that now. We see a lot of success in the data that we get back from that survey, which surveys parents, students, and staff. So being able to see that district-wide helps the board in making decisions and seeing where we do well and where we have opportunities for improvement. Yeah, obviously, then again, would be, the communication around Reimagine Milan. So, other comments or questions regarding that?
I think just the one thing, Mr. Gearbaugh, if you could remind us that the survey from K-12 Insight is usually March, April?
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
it's usually as we approach the end of the year so that the parents have a good majority of the year and the students and the staff so that they're commenting on this year, not a previous year, so that we can compare year-to-year data.
And really, I asked that question just as to plant a seed with all of us that when that survey comes out, to please take the time to respond.
Absolutely.
Mr. Sisler?
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez.
I really like having this overview of the current communication methods, especially as a parent who now has kids in different buildings. It's helpful to know where I should be looking for information, and I remember seeing this a couple years ago for the first time. It might be helpful, and just a suggestion, to perhaps think about the frequency that we should as parents be expecting some of these. So I know it's not Sunday night if I don't get my Milan Middle School weekly update newsletter, and I've come to rely on that. But as a new parent, if I don't get one, and I don't know any better, and so to communicate that this is something that comes out every week, or to note that different buildings have their own social media. There's a Paddock social media, there's a Milan Middle School social media, and to use this as a way to communicate to our families as well about the ways in which they can stay engaged. That this isn't just kind of one big omnibus communication strategy at the district level, but each of these actually have their own nuance at the building level. Thank you.
Yeah, and we heard some of that as far as from the communications committee, as far like how do you like to receive this information? You know, is it an email, a physical newsletter? That's part of the process they went through to evaluate some of these things, and will be part of that plan going forward. Was my understanding from
Yes.
from that. So, good point. All right, next up is personnel and leadership.
So under personnel and leadership, the goal was to recruit and retain skilled, passionate, and effective staff who are committed to the success of Milan area schools and its place in the community. The objectives were to review and adapt operations based on staff culture survey responses. The second objective was to expand programming for support of new teachers. And the third objective was to monitor and benchmark all district salaries. The information that we keep, that the data that the board has asked and be included in this section is those staff that are new hires and those staff that are resigning or retiring in our certified positions. So that's the data that we keep in this section.
And then some of the initiatives around this is, obviously, there was a lot of changes in the law in regards to teacher evaluations and teacher and negotiations that the school district needs to look at. So we need to examine those laws and implement policies that meet those laws. So that's one thing that we're going to be looking at. And then the other thing is, with this being entering into a negotiation year, one of the things that that comes up is those staff that aren't bargained for, and there's a list of those within the district, and Mr. Gearboss performed a couple of market analysis on those as it has become evident that as we compare to other districts, we need to adjust. So we've made some of those mid-year adjustments, but we've asked for a review of that, a comprehensive review of all of those, to help place salaries in the correct position for the people that are doing similar work in similar areas. So that's one of the things that we're looking at within the next year. Other questions and concerns?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes.
I'm going to circle back to our policy manual and moving forward with that, with the teacher evaluation and administrator evaluation process. I think we need to ensure that we're continuing to move forward with that.
And that's on us. I mean, that's not Mr. Gearbaugh. We
Right.
talked to, this is that transition from Neola to Troon. So policy committee is leading that charge, but we need to continue that charge. And obviously, like I said, we're going to need to look at these policies in regards to negotiation and teacher placement and things like that sooner rather than later. So I appreciate the comment in regards to that. Others? I mean, I guess I just go back and echo these hires this evening. I mean, I just echo what everybody said about, a para to a teacher, grow your own, the fact that 17 out of 19 within WISD, that's fantastic. It does show that these programs are working, so. All right, and then the last area is finance and operations.
So the goal in finance and operations is to maintain and improve facilities and equipment to support safe, innovative programs. The objectives: 1, identify and attend to critical technology, HVAC, roof, parking lot, and bus needs. Objective 2 is to investigate a sinking fund millage. And objective 3 is to investigate and address critical safety needs. The information that we keep underneath these are the things that we do regularly to maintain our facilities and the safety in our district. We also provide district fund balance information in this section as well to document that we are properly funding those needs.
So we continue to have a appropriate fund balance, and we continue to monitor that in regards to costs. I think you can just read the news, and there are several districts that weren't successful in managing that one-time money that they received, and I think it's a great accomplishment by Mr. Gearbaugh and this administration and this staff that we have. We've gone through that and planned for that one-time money accordingly and successfully, and maintained appropriate level of staffing and support. Some of the other things, obviously, one of the things that we talk about with these buildings, although this building, a lot of people walk in, they think it looks great. There's a lot of things behind the doors that are, getting older. And those are some of those things that we need to look at in regards to sinking funds. And then obviously safety is always the highest priority. We appreciate Mr. Gearbaugh and Mr. McMahon pursuing those grants through the state of Michigan for safety equipment. There's been several updates that we've received, and there's other updates that they're going to pursue to increase the safety of our buildings. So obviously those are some of the highlights that we're looking at in regards to that area. Other comments or concerns regarding that? So overall, going through that process, again, as Mr. Gearbaugh said, his evaluation is a reflection of the entire staff of Milan area schools. It can't be done without everyone that participates and has a job to do for Milan area schools. So we appreciate everyone that does that, and we like the scorecard because it provides that line of sight and says, these are what the priorities are for the district. It's easy for somebody to look at and see, and helps decision making when things come up. So as we continue the evaluation process and looking at this, and like Mr. Gearbaugh said, this will be out on the website to look at, and we'll obviously look at it again when we do the next check-in for his evaluation. So, all right. With that, that takes us back to communications and community engagement and back to public comment. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board?
Andrea Bennick, and I'm speaking as a parent, not as a PAC rep. I was wondering if, in regards to the communications component of the strategic plan, if you send out a survey at the end of the year to the entire population, and that's very specific to general education. I'm wondering if there is a way that we can create a specific survey for students who have special needs, who have a IEP or 504 plan, because a lot of the things that are involved in their education are above and beyond what the general population might experience. I know I've talked to Lon about this a couple of different times, but I think that it would be a really helpful way to gauge the effectiveness of students' education and teachers, support staff, all of those things for that population. And then another thing that I was thinking about was we talked about social media and how Ms. Gutierrez mentioned, all the different buildings have social media. Athletics has their own social media page. I'm wondering if on the homepage of the Milan Area Schools website, there can just be direct links, noted, hey, this is the social media if you're looking for updates for your specific building, your specific programs. A lot of times things are posted there. So just a couple of ways that we could consider improving the communications for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennick. Are there any others? All right, thank you for those comments. Student board member representative comments. Obviously, they are not here this evening. Mr. McMahon is excused for assistant superintendent comments, and that leads us to superintendent comments from Mr. Gearbaugh.
Thank you. Several things to share this evening. First, and some of these comments go way back. If you don't realize, we haven't had a board meeting since December 13th, so a lot of things to update on. One, over 75 Milan families received Christmas baskets full of food and household supplies on December 16th. The Milan Rotary Club collected over $7,700 and bought approximately $6,000 of supplies for families. Paddock, Simons, and the middle school all held non-perishable food drives to help fill the baskets. Milan High School had a jar wars to raise cash to help Rotary make the purchases, and the high school raised over $1,000 out of that $7,700. Aid in Milan helps us coordinate the families, and Interact students, which is kind of a high school version of Rotary, from Milan High School helped the Rotary members pack all of the items. And the students were amazing this year. We had some returning students who have been involved in Interact in the past, and they just kind of took over because they knew what to do from past years, and it was wonderful. This truly is an amazing accomplishment for our community to be able to provide this for those families in need. And I do want to note, if you notice the difference between what Rotary collected and what Rotary spent, that's because some of that money came in after the event, and we will be making a donation of approximately $1,700 to Aid in Milan in cash from the Milan Rotary Club so that they can go out and purchase other items that all of the families serviced by Aid in Milan will need. So Rotary does not keep any of the money that we collect from this program. The fact that we had some checks come in after we made the purchases just allows us to make a cash donation to Aid in Milan. Several staff updates today, and I'm sorry to say some of them are sad. Dawn Hines, our nurse in the district, her sister passed away. Her name was Kimberly Beth Tom. She passed away on December 27th. Terry Himmich, who is our Simons lead custodian, his mother passed away. That is also Kirsty Hostler, who is our Simons administrative assistant. That's her grandmother. Her name is Barbara Himmich. She passed away on January 6th. And then Debbie Hostler, who is a cafeteria staff member and transportation bus monitor, lost her husband, Richard Hostler, on December 20th. So that we ask that you keep those families, Dawn Hines and her family, Terry Himmich and Christy Hostler and their families, and Debbie Hostler in your thoughts as they are dealing with grief and the loss of loved ones. The letter of agreement was unanimously approved by the Milan Area Schools Support Staff Group on 12/15. Those new pay rates went into effect on 12/16 in accordance with the letter of agreement. And we are happy to announce that not only are our current parapros being able to make more money, but over Christmas break, if I remember correctly, Lon Smith told me he was able to hire 6 new paraprofessionals. So the increase in salary did do what we were hoping it would do, and it attracted more folks, and we hope that we have even more coming. So we are very thankful that that initiative actually accomplished 2 things: helps our current parapros make more, and helped attract more parapros to be hired. Again, some of these seem old, but they're since the last board meeting. I did visit the Milan High School exam cram event on 12/17. Over 10% of the Milan High School student body attended, and there were more than 15 staff members there helping those students as they studied for their exams. And I do want to call out specifically, this was the list that I could put together: Jim Brousseau, Mackenzie Chappell, Jeff Davis, Abigail Dryberg, Dan Heike, Christina Mahaney, Herb Morlock, Nate Rodriguez, Cassidy Sheltonhelm, Matt Walleen, Mary Hammer, Kathy Mee, Rochelle Giassi, Kimberly Taylor, Dawn Werstein, Emily Larson, Philip Hayes, and Sierra Moran were all staff members that were there to help those students. And I want you to note, folks, those weren't all teachers. We had parapros that came in. We had a building secretary that came in. It was just, and this is the first time we've ever done this. And I thought it was incredibly successful, and it gave those students a chance to come in, and they were working with teachers and asking very specific questions, and it was just really neat to see, something I wish I had had back when I was studying for exams. We are excited to have a Simons Elementary principal in place. I thank the board for approving Mrs. Schwartz. Like I said, she will begin her new position around February 1st after she provides that 2-week notice to her current employer. Two additional pieces of sad news that come from past employees of the district. For those that remember Dennis McComb, he was the superintendent of Milan area schools from 1996 to 2008. He passed away on January 11th. Among his many accomplishments while leading Milan area schools, Dennis passed a bond and oversaw the construction of this new high school. I know it's not new anymore. It opened in 2004. But the insight that he saw, for those that don't know, our concern at that time was that Paddock was overcrowded. And instead of building another elementary school, Dennis realized that we had to have a new high school that was more state-of-the-art and provided the facilities that our high school students needed. For those that don't know, that bond issue passed by 9 votes. And then we proceeded to build this wonderful facility that our students get to enjoy every day. A behind-the-scenes thing that Dennis did that I don't think a lot of people know is he came in and ran a major overhaul of all of the curriculum in Milan area schools. And it took a 5-year time frame. They covered one subject area each year, and then the 5th year was all of those extra classes. And he worked with the board to put money behind that and purchase new curricular materials. And I know that might seem something that's more natural now, but I think it's important to know that when I came to Milan area schools in 1992, our social studies teachers were teaching out of textbooks that they couldn't teach the Vietnam War from because the textbooks were older than before the war occurred. So while we're used to now having this ongoing cycle and improving our curriculum on a very regular basis, that was not the case in a lot of districts, and Dennis McComb spearheaded that process of revamping all of our curriculum over a 5-year time cycle. I will say personally, Dennis was a mentor of mine. He really was part of the reason I got into administration. I started working for him as a teacher. He then hired me to be an assistant principal, eventually hired me to be a principal, then appointed me as his assistant superintendent, and highly recommended me to the board to become superintendent when he retired. I was able to go to his visitation tonight and spend a little bit of time with his wife and his 3 daughters and the rest of his family. He is he's now the 3rd longest superintendent of Milan area schools. The longest superintendent was Clayton Simons, who was superintendent for 26 years. I'm actually now the 2nd longest superintendent of Milan. This is my 16th year, and Dennis is the 3rd longest with 12 years with the district. So, and he had some major accomplishments when he was here. So I truly want to thank him for everything he did for this district. The other passing that we had, Joanne Heath, a long-time resident of Milan, actually graduated from Milan in 1956. Was then an administrative assistant and was actually the administrative assistant at the middle school when I became the assistant principal, and I was blessed to be able to work with her. She passed away on January 13th. So again, we ask that you keep the McComb and the Heath family in your thoughts. I'm sure you're well aware of the Heath family. They own a lot of farmland and lease a lot of farmland in the area. And I know that a couple of the sons of Ted and Joanne have taken on a lot of those farming responsibilities. On Friday, January 12th, the Washtenaw County superintendents and the law enforcement officials from across the county held our regular joint meeting. We do this a couple of times a year just to make sure that all of the superintendents are keeping in touch with all of the law enforcement. Topics that we discussed at this meeting included school safety, CSTAG, which is a threat assessment when we have a student that we have concern about, our ALICE procedures and some updates. And more importantly, we had a gentleman from the FBI actually give us about an hour training on new thoughts and methods of dealing with bomb threats. And there was some very big insight into, what are some things that usually are telltale that they are valid or not valid. And the interesting thing is, and I can't remember the time frame, but I want to say it was over the last 5 to 7 years, no bomb threats have occurred that were called in on previously. So all bomb threats that are reported or called in or threats that are made, none of them have come to fruition. It's also a new thing for those that haven't heard it. It's something called swatting, which is false delivery of threats. And those are where you'll see it mass. They don't just contact one school, they contact school districts all across the state. And we got a lot of guidance on how you can tell whether a communication that you get is a swatting situation or a real situation. Understand that we will always involve our authorities when we have a situation like that, but it was good to get that training and hear from the FBI, who deals with those all across the country, and therefore had some very good information for us. My last message is regarding school tomorrow. I know that you've all heard that we are closed tomorrow, and I want to provide some information. I tried to provide information in the email so that families understand. So we had a power outage at Paddock and the middle school on Monday for about 5 to 6 hours. One of the things that we don't have in those buildings are large backup generators. So when we lose power, we lose heat. And those buildings are boiler systems that circulate hot water throughout the entire building. Losing that hot water being cycled for 5 hours caused some issues. And we came back in the minute power came on. We checked the boilers. Everything was running. Everything looked good. And then as we monitored temperatures in the rooms, we saw the temperature in about 20 rooms start to drop. And we knew that the heat was not functioning properly. Our maintenance and buildings and grounds people immediately came in and started evaluating those. What we found was that we had pipes in approximately 20 classrooms that had frozen in just that 5 hours. Luckily, we only had one classroom where the pipe burst actually had a little bit of water in the room, but there was no major damage. So the good news is we don't have any residual damage from water. I did receive a text about an hour ago from our Director of Buildings and Grounds. They are to the point where we now have all 20 rooms investigated, and I got to get these numbers right. 14 of them have heat, and the rooms are back to temperature. 3 or 4 of them, they have found the problem, and they've thawed the pipes, but we have pipe repair, and the 2 companies that we had out helping us ran out of the materials they needed to do those pipe repairs, so they will be back early tomorrow morning. That's how many pipe repairs we had to make. We do have 3 classrooms where the coil in the classroom actually burst. We can't repair that. We have to order parts, but we have already been working with our insurance company and have temporary heat being put into those 3 spaces. So we have every intention of conducting school on Friday. But I do want to let you know, I think you all know, I don't take closing school lightly, but we just couldn't bring students back into classrooms that weren't at temperature. And I also know that a big question is, well, if the problem was at Paddock, why didn't you just close Paddock? A couple of major reasons. One, there are state laws regarding attendance. And I can tell you, looking at the percentage of the district that Paddock represents and knowing our regular absences at the other buildings, we would not have met the 75% threshold in the district. And so it would not have counted as a school day anyway if we had held school tomorrow. Second, trying to hold school at Paddock in a building that has our littlest students there, we really need to make sure that it's not chaotic when they come. And so we didn't want to have to relocate rooms or be dealing with still solving some of those issues. So it was in the best interest of the district to close for one more day and get everything in line so that when we come back on Wednesday or on Friday, all of our classrooms at Paddock are up and warm, and our students will be able to learn comfortably. Please remember that we get 6 days forgiven by the state of Michigan. Tomorrow is number 3, so we still have a few left. Let's hope that we don't need to use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerbaugh, and thank you to the Buildings and Grounds staff for their response. And continuing to deal with that so that we can look forward to having school resume. Board member comments. I just want to start with a few things. One thing is the committee assignment discussion. So I will be sending out an email that asks for your top 3 choices as far as what committees you want to serve on. And the committees mirror the strategic plan. So there's the academics and programs, learning environment and culture, the community engagement, and then the finance and operations. So I'll send out a short description of those, and then I'll ask for which committees you're interested in serving on, so that we can make those assignments and the chairs of those committees at the next, not announced at the next meeting. We also will be doing a board self-evaluation through MASB, so I will get that information gathered up and out to you as well. Again, this is a way for us to monitor our how we believe we're meeting certain objectives, and then it's collated by MASB, and they provide us a report back to help see where we're at in regards to that. And then finally, I did receive an email from Miss Moran, middle school science. She's requesting a 3D laser printer through GMACF grant, so I provided her a letter of support in regards to that, seeking that grant. So a lot of the teachers have submitted grants, and it's always great to see what they're looking for in regards to other supplies and equipment to increase those opportunities for our students. So that's all I have for my comments. Others?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms.
Yes,
Rosenleecher.
first, Mr. Gearba, do you have the date of the foundation gala? Do you recall?
Yes, it's February 24th.
Okay.
And if anybody wants tickets, I have them. That's another board I sit on.
And it is a fun event, so.
Yes, absolutely.
I've only had the pleasure of attending once, but look forward to attending again this year, so. So I wanted to remember to talk about that.
And
Also,
you should tell why. I mean, GMACF.
GMACF, their gala it's their big fundraiser that supports organizations in Washtenaw, Monroe County, and Milan area schools is a great beneficiary of the work that they do. So scholarships for our students annually. Our students walk away with nice checks for various amounts of money, $250 and up to, I think some of them were, I remember years ago, my daughter got a $3,000 grant from them. So it comes right back to us. It comes back to our teachers and our students. So it's a fairly inexpensive way to give back and have a nice evening out if you're able to join. So please come and join us. It's in a new location, I think, this year.
Yes, it's being held at Washtenaw Community College.
Lovely. So there's that. And then just a reminder, we've got a little ways to go, but February 20th is our next Big Red Chat at 6:30 p.m., and I believe it's at Milan Middle School this time. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenleecher. Others?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Pryor.
I just wanted to say I had a chance to participate in the Communications Committee meeting in December, and I really enjoyed attending because it was nice to see so many passionate people really working to try to figure out ways to help our community understand what is happening. And seeing all the work that they've put into it so far and the plan that they're trying to bring about was inspiring. So I look forward to being part of that in the future.
Cool. Thank you, Ms. Pryor. Others? Ms. Gutierrez?
Mr. Sislo.
Yes.
I just want to offer my appreciation to many levels of people in this district that are working so hard to support special education. This includes you, Mrs. Bennick, and your work with PAC. It includes Mr. Gearbaugh and his work in supporting the pipeline programs. It includes Mr. Smith and the folks that work on the administrative end of that. I've learned so much just sitting on the board over the last several months about this. And when you were speaking tonight, Mrs. Bennick, the word advocate just kept coming to my mind. And I'm really extremely grateful that we have so many wonderful advocates in this district for these students. I think we have had a lot of passionate people for a long time, but over the last several months, I've seen these conversations come together and really be very productive. And I think your feedback here and your communication to the board and vice versa is extremely productive, and it's exciting, and I'm really, really grateful to it. And specifically, I think we all want to make sure we heard what Mrs. Bennick said about cognitive accessibility. This happens in any profession, right? Any profession has their own culture, their own language. You know, if you go to the doctor, you feel like you need a translator. If you're not a sports person and you're watching an athletics event, you need, you know, what's the third down versus the second period? And same thing with all the acronyms. And so I appreciate that perspective offered by your presenter, and I really appreciate you bringing it back here to us. And I hope that, and I know Mr. Gearbout will continue to pass that message through our staff, because it's a lot. Being a parent is hard enough. Being a parent trying to negotiate school and your child's education and these really big things is challenging. And then when there's these other things layered on top. And so I'm just so grateful for that perspective, for that ongoing conversation back and forth, and for reminding us that this, you know, we have this expertise, not we, our district employees have this expertise, but our parents have expertise too, and that we really want to make sure that we are intentionally working to make sure they're speaking the same language. And so I appreciate that perspective, and thank you for bringing that to us. And I think very much we have so many wonderful advocates for all of our students in this district. Particularly, we've seen real investment in making sure that the many players for special education are working very, very hard. And I'm very grateful to all of you who are working in that arena. So thank you.
Well stated. Ms. Murray.
Yes, once again, you've said it as eloquently as I think is possible, but I have the great privilege of having a cubicle in the special education office at the WISD, so I'm always hearing these conversations kind of wafting in and out and through our offices, and I completely concur. The coalescing of passion and advocacy and expertise that's happening amongst parents such as yourself who are, you know, dedicating so much time and energy to the PAC so that you're bridging those gaps for other families in our communities is just so invaluable, and it's really exciting to see and start to feel some of the ripple effects of that. So I don't think that the importance of what you're doing, Ms. Bennett, can be understated at all. So thank you so much for all of the time and effort that you put into these updates, and the important, incredible advocacy work that you're doing. So thank you for that. And then just on a, not really a personal note, a board professional note, I just wanted to share with the board and the community that last week I completed my level 1 CBA certification, so all 9 100 level courses for being a certified board member, and then I also have I think 117 was the number of EDU credits. So once you complete a level, then you can take other classes. There are 200 and 300 level classes as well, but other activities that you participate in, such as superintendent evaluations, conferences, work that I do as a speaker or a presenter, all of that kind of adds EDU credits on top of that. So you accrue those as well. So I'm eligible for a level 2 as well, but they do the awards annually, and since I just finished it, I don't think I'll actually be hearing from the MASB until next year about these awards, but that's fine. I just wanted to let the community know that they're done, and I'm going to keep working, and I'm interested in an additional certification, I'm looking at either data or communications, like community engagement as future certifications. So I just want to thank the board and Mr. Girba and the district for supporting all of our continuing education. I didn't expect to learn the things that I'm learning or to find the passions that I'm finding by sitting on this board. So I appreciate it greatly. Thank you. That's all.
Cool. Congratulations. Oh,
One thing I'd like to add to that, just so the community knows, there actually is a state-funded grant for board members to get training. And so anytime that our board members do that training, we apply for that grant and we get reimbursed that. So not only are they getting amazing training, but it's at no cost to the district. And so I appreciate all of these folks. And I will tell you, all of our board members do a tremendous job of getting courses and those credits. So I just appreciate it. And again, it really is not even at a cost to the district because there's a state grant that funds those.
yeah, so congratulations. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's the way the timing works out. But I think like in March or April, they'll make the announcements and we'll see where we all stand. Let me see. I'm sorry. I want to thank Ms. Bennick as well. But I want to reiterate that she needs help. There still can be another Milan representative, so reach out to her. She is the chairperson of the WIC PAC, and we can still have another Milan representative. So we would desperately appreciate anybody that wants to help her in those endeavors. With that, I have no other business. Any other business? Meeting is adjourned at 8:41. Wow.